Okay, so to start this video, I put all of the formulas that we learned, parentheses there, all of the formulas we learned on the previous page. So here's our general form. This could be either sine or cosine, doesn't matter. Basically, the only difference would be their y-intercept, their starting value. We know that they have the same qualities. So over here are all of my formulas. Here it says identify the midline, amplitude, maximum, minimum values, period, and phase shift for basically each of these graphs. So first off, we're going to start, we're just going to go in order. I'm not going to rate the word over and over again. So we're finding midline first. Midline is the D value. So here, the number added at the end is 2, so we have y equals 2 for our midline. The amplitude, absolute value of A, is next. Okay, so I'm just going to number these 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, so when we follow through, we can see them there. Amplitude here, what number is in front? What's the A value is 5. It's already positive, so I'm going to leave it that way. Number 3, what's the maximum? So we're starting from the midline and going up 5. And I wrote this in the opposite way here because that's the way I think of it. I think start from the midline always and then go up the amplitude and then down the amplitude to the minimum. So my max, 5 plus 2 is 7. My min, 2 minus 5, it's going to go down to negative 3. Number 5, my period, another fast graph. So there's a 3 in the front. So normally it's 2 pi, but we're going 3 times faster. We get there 3 times quicker in less time. The phase shift, this has none. Okay, this is, in a lot of graphs we do, most of the things we do don't have phase shifts. Here we'll have a couple. So there's nothing added or subtracted in that parentheses. So moving on to the next one, B. I have no midline change, so the midline is just y equals 0. There's nothing here at the end. My amplitude is 2. So 0 plus 2 is 2 for the maximum. 0 minus 2 is negative 2 for the minimum. Just going to box this off since my formulas are here. My period value, this one's a really slow graph, right? We're going half speed. So we can see that in our formula, 2 pi over b, 2 pi over 1/2. We would keep change flip, so 2 pi over 1 times 2 over 1 when we flip that bottom fraction. If we're going half speed, it's going to take us double of the time, or 4 pi, to get there. Lastly, number 6, we once again have no phase shift. I'm just going to shorten it to PS. If you want to pause the video and try the next two, that would be great. I also have to fix some notation that's missing, so I'll do that now. Okay, so I still want you to do it on your own, but I wanted to give you the notation if for some reason you don't have your packet with you. So that's C, and I'll do these bottom ones too since we're at it. So this should be all of your notation written in, so you can do those bottom ones. So pause the video again. Actually try all of these. You can watch a couple if you're still not sure, and then pause the video and do the last 4, whatever works for you. Okay, so I'm going to start doing these. First, this one has a normal midline right at 0. There's nothing added at the end. The amplitude is 3. Since the midline is 0, that means the max is just going to go up to 3 and down to negative 3. The period value, I know this one's kind of tricky. There's nothing in front of this theta. Just erase it so it's not confusing. There's nothing in front of this theta, so basically it's just 1 theta. So 2 pi divided by 1 would just be 2 pi. Basically there's been no sort of change to that horizontal direction. So lastly, this one is our first one that does have a phase shift. Okay, we have, this is pi, and because it's adding, that's pi to the left. Okay, so you say which one it is right there. Moving on to the next graph, number 1. Right, midline is y equals negative 4. The amplitude is just 1. There's no number in the front. So if I start from negative 4 and I go up 1, that's going to give me negative 3, and negative 4 down 1 is negative 5. Looking at the period, this is our first time we've seen a pi in this b value, and that's actually used a lot in real life, because if I do 2 pi divided by b, and b is my 2 pi, it actually just becomes a rational number because all of this cancels. So anytime you see pi in the b value, it's going to simplify and the pi will go away, it will cancel out, and you'll have, some sort of rational number. Even though, and I'm going to pause and erase a little bit so we can see what's going on. Okay, so even though I have this -4 here, there's no subtraction in the parentheses or addition, so there's no phase shift for this one. So if you just watched me on those two, I highly suggest pausing the video and finishing the rest of it. I will be going over those as well, though. Okay, so looking at this one, just y equals 0 for the midline. Amplitude is 1, which makes the highest it goes +1, the lowest it goes -1. The period here, we have another situation where b has a pi in it. So 2 pi divided by pi over 6 is going to equal 2 pi over 1 times 6 over pi. My pi's will cancel, multiply across, I'm just left with 12. And this is a pretty typical period if you have stuff repeating monthly, or not monthly, yearly over 12 months, or if you have it repeating every 12 hours, kind of like tides do. Lastly, there is no phase shift for that one. Just gonna write that. Moving on to the next one. Here, nothing added at the end, so we just have y equals 0. The amplitude here is 2/3. Since the midline is 0, that means that the max is 2/3 and the min is -2/3. And my b value is 7, so this period is 2 pi divided by 7. Remember, that's a faster graph because we're dividing out, right? So it takes less time to get there. Lastly, my phase shift is 3 to the left because of the plus sign. Okay, moving down to the next one. My midline is 50. My amplitude is 100, which means that 50 go up 100 is 150, and 50 go down 100, right, is going to be -50. Period, here's that b value is 2 pi over 3. This one has a phase shift of pi over 2 to the right because we're subtracting. And the last one, here, remember there's no parentheses, so we put the parentheses around what's multiplied, not the +30, so the midline is 30. The amplitude is 20. I'm running out of room here, so I'm going to do 3 over here. So 30 plus 20 is 50. 30 minus 20 is 10. Here we have 2 pi divided by pi over 12. I'm not going to do all the work because I'm kind of out of space, but that's going to be similar to this one. Pi's will cancel. We end up with 2 times 12 is 24. And lastly, there's no phase shift.